I'm the only white face in this area. You don't belong here. Stop, I'll shoot you in the back.
Yo, what's up? Mike from Copville here to talk about Tasty Gains creatine gummies. I would never push a product I don't use. I didn't take creatine until I ran into Tasty Gains and started taking these gummies because they're simple. No powder, no mixing, just pop a gummy in, 1 gram of creatine per gummy. What are the benefits of creatine? Increase water to the muscles to get that sick pump in the gym. Better recovery, more power during your workout, and studies are now showing it's helping with the brain, which I need all the help I can get. So go to tastygains.com, use code COPVILLEOG for 20% off. This is the real deal, simple, easy, and we'll get that pump going so you look good for the ladies or men. What's up, guys? Another episode of Locked Up with Copville, and I have my first ever day one guest back again, Jerry Wurms. Jerry, thanks for coming on again.
Okay, my pleasure.
So we all know it's been a whirlwind, but I wanted to talk to you again. It's been, I think I'm on episode 2021. When this airs, I'll be in the middle of the ocean somewhere on a cruise. And I thought how better to have like a reunion episode with the day one guest while I'm out relaxing. So you, as always, you're helping me out. But I wanted to talk about, you know, you come from a generation of guys that never really got accolades. You guys worked your ass off. You did all this stuff. And now that you have gotten in the spotlight after that spotlight of cops, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how things changed and how has your life been different since all this has happened.
Well, you know, I've gotten a lot of attention from a lot of these podcast guys that are, I guess, related with counterculture.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been a guest on 4 other podcasts. And I got another one coming up Tuesday with Tone Alert.
Beautiful.
And each one's different. Everybody has their own take on, you know, how police work should be done and, you know, different things that we did and talked about. But it's been real interesting and I'm really enjoying it.
Good. And how do you, like, as an older, obviously the OG, you got the old Street Goon OG hat on there. How do you feel about being involved in social media and podcasting when you come from an era that didn't even have beepers yet? Like how do you, I mean, have you made the transition? You feel like it's a good transition for law enforcement, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think there's good and bad with everything because, you know, as we talked about before and what you guys talk about a lot, some of the social media is negative because you got these TikTok cops that are, you know, getting on there and thinking that they're showing everybody what real police work is when they're putting on makeup in the car, or some guy's doing some stupid chasing his wife out of the car to see if he could catch her. You know, all these, I mean, it's ridiculous to see some of those. But some of the other podcasts talking about real life situations, a lot of stuff is, you know, body camera video that we can review and you can learn from that. That's the good part. You can always learn from somebody else's mistakes.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously I'm pretty hard on that TikTok stuff. I do post a lot of those videos, and I have a hard time, it sounds like you do too, I have a hard time believing that that stuff does anything positive for law enforcement. I think it does maybe some positive for the guy posting it or the people posting it, thinking that maybe it's helping their mental health. So I try to be a little bit understanding, but as a whole, you know, people will say, well, you guys are taking this job too serious. But do you think there's a such thing as taking law enforcement too serious? Like, can you take it too serious?
You have to be absolutely serious because it's a life or death kind of job. I mean, we've seen plenty of videos where, you know, and I hate the term, you know, routine traffic stop, you know. I've seen these so-called routine traffic stops and they get into a shootout. So it goes from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. So we've seen those happen. And a lot of these people, they're not prepared because they're so busy worrying about what they look like or what song they're listening to or what kind of makeup they're putting on.
Yeah.
And some of these other videos, I think if it's done properly for a true recruiting video where you're actually doing a serious take on what you need to do to get recruited. I think there's a guy, what's the guy from Miami that talks about getting recruited for different departments? I forgot his name. Anyway, he does things, and he's serious about what you need
Nick,
to do
is
to
it Nick on
prepare.
Nick? Is it Nick?
Yeah, Nick on duty.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually talks about what it takes to prepare yourself to apply to a police department
Yeah.
or a sheriff's office.
And that's
That
that's important.
that's good information done through social media.
Yeah.
So that part is good. And then you have the stupid Atlanta recruiting video where everybody's dancing around, and you know, half of them, their uniforms look like they slept in them, or nobody's wearing a vest. Everybody's dancing around. Their mag pouches are on the side of their back, and it just, it looks like a clown show.
It does. And people will say, "Oh, well, you're being a bully," or you're whatever they may say. But I agree. There is a time, like me going on a cruise. Like that's the time to let your hair down, go have fun, get on a boat, go to the mountains, like we were talking about. You going up north, Martha's Vineyard recently. That's where your relaxation should be. But in this job and the seriousness of this job, your relaxation should not be sitting in your patrol car making videos or, like you said, dancing and it's a very serious job. Now, there's a lot of downtime, so it's a balance. And I get we can't all be robots, but most jobs when you go to work, you're like an office person is doing paperwork all day. I feel like in our job, because of that built-in up and downtime, the downtime seems to now be where you were doing surveillance with your binoculars down the road, watching, trying to be the only white face in the neighborhood. Now the downtime is, let me make a TikTok. Let me, get on social media and scroll. Let me do some. So I don't think where we need downtime and vacations and to let our brain down, I don't think at work is a time to do that. I think like you said, we should be pretty serious throughout a shift, especially patrol. I mean, what do you think?
Well, when I started, we didn't have social media. We didn't even have cell phones or any of that stuff. So um, my downtime, I didn't have a distraction. My downtime was really not a downtime. I mean, because if I wasn't answering a call, I was doing something proactive.
Mhm.
So it made the shift go by a lot faster because I was always busy. And, you just didn't have, I mean, the district I worked in when I started, I'd get dispatched to 16, 17 calls a night. So I didn't have downtime. Even if I had, a cell phone at that time and to make I wouldn't have had time to do
Yeah.
TikTok
Yeah,
videos.
I
So
agree. And that's what I did. Like I look at downtime when I started and I worked the hood heavy, like 04, 05, 06 was when I was really in my stride. And I say this with the utmost professionalism. My goal was to arrest as many people as I could. Now, that doesn't mean grandma goes to jail. That doesn't mean I was able, and just like you, I worked in an area where there was crime going on every second of the day. I enjoyed taking people to jail, not to be a bully, not to make their lives miserable. I wanted to stop the guys from stealing and then going to buy crack like you did. I wanted to stop the guys selling crack to little kids and young kids and hanging out at the parks. That was my enjoyment. And some people now, oh, you guys are, million tyrants. And then that's what we got paid to do. And that's what I enjoyed to do. And I just don't see in a very small, I get a lot of pictures of a lot of dope arrests, a lot of guns, a lot of money seized sent to me and that I can't post. Some I can, but I feel like that era is gone. And I see a lot locally where everybody kind of does the opposite, where it's more, how do I get out of doing the job? How do I write less reports? How do I do, what do you think when you see policing now? Do you think it's more of that, like people trying to get out of work because they're too busy doing other things?
well, once again, it depends, where you're working. Yeah, there was always a guy that tried to slough off a call because, let's say you were going to a call and then he'd make some stupid traffic stop on the way to the call. So they'd have to, it was his call and I was dispatched as the backup and he didn't want to take it,
He
you
wants you to
know,
beat him there.
yeah, because you knew it was going to be a paper call.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the backup and then I wind up becoming the primary because, it turns out to be a paper call if it's like a strong arm robbery or something like that.
Yeah.
So that went on even when I worked. Guys wanted to slough off some calls. I remember going to a call where there was a so-called fight call at a corner, and I was the backup, and I got there first, and I didn't get on the radio. I just wanted to see what would happen, and the guy that was supposed to take the call, since I never went 1097, that's our code to that I'm at the call. So I never went on the air saying I was there. And then the other guy who was his call actually said he was 1097 on the call, and he never showed up. And then after about 3 minutes, he coded the call out. Then I wound up getting with him later, and I told him, I said, "Hey, don't ever do that again. I'm not a rat, but I'm telling you, if there was a true fight and you're coding a call out that you never go to, and I go there by myself and I got to break up something, I'm going to go to the supervisor and let him know what you're coding out calls that you're not even showing up to." So every department, we talked about it, the 10%ers that shouldn't be cops, shouldn't be carrying a gun and have a badge. So
yeah, we had a guy, and I'm going to say his name because he didn't have a problem saying. I'm going to tell a story. This guy named Mike Ferguson worked for the sheriff's office. Problem after problem after problem. Terrible cop. I actually posted one of his videos on my old page where he was getting his ass whooped by an old man or a kid across the street. Anyway, during COVID, they were doing report calls over the phone, and he gets a burglary call, and he goes and he calls the guy, Hispanic dude, and the guy says, "Hey, my weed eater's gone, my lawnmower's gone." And like we talk about, like to that guy, that is the most important thing. His weed eater, he's the lawn guy, like his stuff is missing. That's really important. That's his livelihood. So he tells him on the phone, yeah, I'll take the report. And then I'll come by and look for video and I'll do X, Y, Z. So takes the report over the phone. He omits one of the items to keep it under the grand theft total. So it's a misdemeanor, not a felony. It looks like on the report. And then puts on his report, very similar to what you just said. He puts in his report that he canvassed the area for possible video cameras and all that stuff. By the chance of God, I have a Hispanic guy riding with me in FTO. He was actually a forensic guy that had gone through the academy to go back as a sworn forensic guy. And a real good dude, Manasseh, good friend of mine. And so we pull up at a different call. We're just happening to be in that same neighborhood. Pull up and disturbance or something. And the Hispanic guy comes out and he says, I got a Hispanic guy there to talk to him. He's telling him, he's like, yeah, I called the police last night. He's like, I waited like 7 hours and they never showed up. And I'm like, I mean, they never showed up. He's like, he said he was going to come. He was going to do it. He never came. So I go to my computer, I look at the call, and I look at the report, and it says exactly that. It says, I took it over the phone. There was just a weed eater. I canvassed the area for cameras, and none were located. This is God's honest truth. I turn around, and I look, and every single house has a camera on it. So I knock on the first house. The entire burglary is captured on video with the suspect, plain as day, his face is visible, 2 trips to the truck to steal the stuff, and it goes into the woods, and I find the property. So I'm able to, not only did he not go, I'm able to identify the suspect, arrest the suspect, and then recover all the stolen property by just doing my job. And this guy, he got fired. That was his last chance, and he went on to write a book that has more misspellings than I don't know whatever you want to come up with. It's like a 3rd grader wrote it. And then he started making TikToks, and he was pulling public records requests from everybody at the agency and just trying to trash everybody else, including my wife was one of the people he tried to go after, and me. And because he was a piece of garbage. So I've lived that type of cop, and that guy right there deserves, he's a piece of shit. That guy's a piece of shit. Whoever that guy was in Broward, I'm sure was the same way. Like, that's completely unacceptable to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing the public wrong. I mean, that's, you're a public servant, and you're basically getting paid to do a job, and it's like stealing in a way. Yeah,
I mean, it's to me, and I'm glad they fired him, because it seemed like the old sheriff protected him. It was a new sheriff that came in, and they got rid of him. he was on one of those I never understood that either. A last chance agreement. He had been in so much trouble throughout the years that he had so many knocks against him, but I don't know why they never fired him before that. But yeah, he was on some last chance agreement. And they can't, to me, that's perjury because he wrote in an official police document that XYZ happened. They pulled his AVL, his video, or his GPS. He never went to the neighborhood, never did anything he said he was going to do. And that one felt good. Not only to get rid of a shitty cop, but to actually solve that dude's crime. And I still see that guy. I still see that dude. I saw him. He got popped for like a no driving not too long ago because I still keep in contact. But I saw him a couple months ago at a gas station, and that was in 2021. 5 years later, 4 years later, that dude still walks up to me. Hey man, thanks for finding my lawnmower. I appreciate it. Like, or my weed eater. It's like, that's what we do. I mean, that, and that's the calls that are important. And that's where I go with like the TikTok and the blowing stuff off in your car breeds to me that type of behavior because you're too busy being self-servant in your car, worried about TikTok and Instagram. And those are the calls we should, those are important calls to people, the thefts.
Now, let me ask you something about, because I'm, like I said, I've been retired for a while. Obviously, as technology changes, so does policy and procedure. Mm-hmm. So how do these departments allow this to go on? Do they have any written policy about doing these things on duty? I mean, what's social media?
What do you mean, social media?
Yeah, what is the policy with these departments with social media?
So it varies. So I love it. I love you ask this question because it's wild. So we have you've probably seen some of the videos I posted. These girls are posting about getting cracked. They're saying basically they didn't get laid last night, so XYZ happened. Bradford County Sheriff's Office in Florida, which is middle of the state, like Stark, which is west of Jacksonville, out in the middle of nowhere. They got a black chick, something Quisha. I think her last name is, I can't remember her last name. I should know it. Anyway, she got a common last name, Davis or something. Anyway, she's making them cracked videos and she's making all this shit. I send that stuff to that sheriff's office. To this day, they haven't responded. Social media policy, who knows? You're talking about you didn't get laid on duty or you didn't get laid last night, so everybody's getting a ticket or nobody's getting a ticket. Then she's recording herself interacting with the public, which to me brings her phone into play as a public record request because it's recorded official stuff. Some agencies say you can't post on duty at all. Some say it has to be tasteful. I think mine doesn't talks about anything that's going to, anything that brings negative light to the sheriff's office, which I went through it. I talk about it. TikTok, basically they got me for social media violation for posting unfavorably. I got a letter counseling, but posting unfavorably in uniform. Then it goes more serious where I saw a girl in Texas. Then they seem to have a big problem. There's like a constable type deal in Texas where they're not real cops, but they are. She did the same get cracked video and the news picked it up. And like the channel, whatever news was like, look at this. She's on suspension or out of work and they're handling it. So every agency seems to be different. Everybody's got like a generic policy for like, you can't talk to the media and you can't be given official statements, but you still have a First Amendment right. Kind of like podcasting. Like I can make a podcast as a cop, but I'd be walking that line like Tyler was about, what can you say? But it seems like the good agencies keep it under control and they say, do your job. Don't be posted on social media. Like I hear like Martin County Sheriff's Office here in Florida, very strict social media policy. You don't have any of their guys doing anything silly. Like Jacksonville, you don't see anything up there. Then you get a county like Bradford County, clowns. Lee County, who I did an episode on that idiot, Carmine Marciano, clowns. They're making all kinds of dumb. Then you got the agency that actually making the video. So
yeah, I mean, if they had a strong policy, it would stop some of this stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember when we first got laptop computers, they had to come out with policies because, believe it or not, and I'm sure you believe it, guys will start surfing porno sites. So now guys are sitting there, mostly guys that are, detectives and stuff like that. They were, maybe take a break and they're starting to look at all these porno sites while they're on duty. So they had to come up with a policy, certain sites you weren't allowed to go on. So every time somebody violated something, a new policy came out.
Oh, that's yeah. I remember David, you worked with David. David came out and I remember I'm guilty of it. Like we ran every football player I could think of in David before the policy came out that, it's got to be under official business. And I knew guys were stalking their girlfriends and ex-girlfriends and all that, but that was a common thing. David comes out and we're like, oh, Let me look up, I remember Dante Culpepper got traded to the Dolphins. I'm like, he's got a Florida license. How many cars he have? People were looking up stuff like crazy. Then it got strict. And then I remember guys were looking up females, and the females came through and subpoenaed or did a public records request for the whole state of Florida and found out every agency that ran them. And they were suing the shit out of people for illegally looking them up on David. So yeah, there's always a policy, but it seems like now it's kind of a case by case basis. You got that idiot Hawkrilla up in Irmo, South Carolina. They condone all that nonsense he posts, all those videos on duty in uniform. They absolutely. I talked to people from up there. The local academy
with
condones
the pink handcuffs.
Yeah,
the agency's okay with that.
100%. They actually deleted their Instagram. They don't have it. I used to message them, and they don't care. They have no care in the world. Local news thinks he's great. It's a podunk town outside of Columbia. It's a busy area, but they're right outside of Columbia. They don't care. There's another idiot up there. I don't remember what agency is. Gaston. I know Dom went after that guy. You see him go from in uniform to they're so fucked up that they buy a shirt that says police on it, and then they start making them off duty, but they have to keep that identity as a cop. And then, like I said, Texas is pretty bad right now. There's a whole area of Texas. It's hit or miss. And I feel like, I always say this, I feel like somebody who did it and then stopped and realized what a problem it was. And then as we see so many videos of, like you talked about at the beginning, cops getting shot, bad body cam, that's not the time to be making these videos. And these agencies, I don't know how an agency can let a girl post a video that says, I didn't get laid last night, everybody's getting a ticket. They get away with it. Can you imagine if a guy said, I didn't get no pussy last night, I'm going to go, bang your wife or bang your door or kick you. It seems like females get a pass more than men do when they say these wild things, and I'll say it, females are at a disadvantage, and they should be trying a little harder. And I don't care how you feel about that. That's the truth. So to make videos and just, the good female cops hate it too. And that's the other argument I always have, with the females that I go after and the ones that want to clap back and talk shit. I'm like, you might have a bunch of followers that are morons, but the girls that are working their ass off, that are trying to be equal and really train hard, they think you guys are morons. They just don't say anything because it's kind of like, you know how it is when you got a bunch of good guys on a shift and you got one moron, everybody just kind of I'm not even going to deal with that guy. There's no reason to talk to him. He's not going to listen. You just kind of go do your own thing. That's how the good female cops feel about these girls. And I don't, Jerry, I don't know why the social media policy is the way it is, but like you talked about Atlanta, look at Atlanta dancing around. You got the chief, you got all these people doing it. So you're setting an example that it's okay from the top.
What are you attracting with that kind of video? What are you attracting?
I don't, I guess
what's the quality? What's the quality that you're looking for when you, hey, if I can do a good Soul Train line dance down the hallway, that makes me a good cop.
Yeah. And then the Hulk Rilla guy with the pink handcuffs, he does full blown 4 character skits where he's 4 people in the same car of a traffic stop. And I'm I think about playing with the wrestling dolls when I was a kid, and I had a whole pay-per-view in my head. I did I was 7 years old, but these guys are 35-year-old men, and it's a mental illness. It's a mental illness.
So where do you get pink handcuffs? Because I couldn't imagine. Where do you get those?
Adam and Eve, one of those porn stores.
I mean, or maybe he should be carrying, the fur line ones.
Yeah.
Maybe you can send him a pair of those.
A lot of girls go out and get the pink. There's one girl that I think she's the one that quit TikTok. I was up in OTOA at the Ohio Tactical Officers Association, and a sergeant walks up to me. He's from some town in Pittsburgh, and he says, "Man, I got to get a picture with you. You're Copville." And I was like, "Okay." He's like, "You and Dom went after a girl in our department who made TikToks. We all talked about it. We told her to stop. She wouldn't do it. Wouldn't stop. You guys put her on your page, and she stopped." And I remember she was one that had pink handcuff key, pink keys, pink notebook pen, pink cuffs, everything had to, and she was making these with the iced coffee in the car and all the dumb shit. And he was like, this picture is going to be amazing because you guys were the 2 people that got her to stop. And I guess sometimes I feel that's where I guess bullying a little bit is I think it's still warranted. Like these videos I posted the command staff, or the pictures I posted the command staff, or these cops with their gear just shot out.
Now,
It's like,
I was going to just mention that after you got done with this, thought process, the people that are wearing uniforms that are literally completely, um, they're not tactical the way they
no,
set up their gun
no,
belt or anything. It's just they throw it together. Obviously, these people are not working on a regular basis the street areas, because if they needed to get to their guns, sometimes the gun is almost behind their back. The
yeah,
mag pouches are upside down. Taser is down by his leg. I mean, it's like there's nothing, there's no thought process on how to set up your uniform.
no, and that's where old school meets new school, and I don't know who's winning, because old school is everything's uniform. I'm sure down there everything was uniform. Everybody had the same gun, like, and there's that thought process, like militant. And then there's like, oh, it's the new era, the millennials, and all these new generation that they want to know why, they want to be able to have their own ideas. So I think that's where those two worlds collide. And I think the safest world is uniformity. I think the safest world is everybody sets it up. Now, if there's a reason to move it, like a tactical advantage, then I'm always for that. But for the most part, set it up pretty uniform, and that way everybody, knows where the gear is. If there's a shootout, you need to get to somebody's gear, their tourniquet, that stuff. But you're right. Like the one I posted yesterday, the girl she was Boca Police Department. She's got two big pouches out here, and then her magazines are in the middle, buried. And I'm like, how would you, like, in a tactical, your arm, like you're injured, you get banged up, you need to get to it. How would you? There's no way. I don't know how she would get to that. And I look at that and go, that's a failure on her part. But then what about all the guys that walk by her every day, or the command staff, or everybody that walks by her and looks at that and doesn't say anything? They seem to hold some of that responsibility as well. And it's like,
Well, the training division, I mean, I remember, when I first started, um, you know, when you had your, not, when you had to do a shoot and move scenario where they made you do several reloads going from
mhm,
barrel to going prone position and getting up and high, going, to the side of the barrel, left and right, and made mandatory reloads. And depending on where your, mag pouches were, you had to have them in a certain way to get to them. So, I mean, the training division could see if you were fumbling around
yeah, yeah.
trying to do a reload.
That's the responsibility of training. And I will tell you, in my agency, it I'm not going to say it. I can just tell you that in today's police world, for you, I know how you remember it, and that's what training did. And they were carte blanche to say whatever they needed to say to make sure. It's not like that anymore. Too many people get their feelings hurt. Everything's a hostile work environment. Everybody's got yelled at me. That's where, and I get mental health. Like, we need to be more mental health conscious in people, but there also still needs to be rules, and the rules need to be enforced. And sometimes you need to be yelled at and scolded. And that's where, like you're talking about, I should be able to tell you, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are your magazines there? Why you can't reload? You're not tactical. You're not doing it. Like, fix it. And if you argue with me, I should be able to get elevated. We had a guy, his name was John Burdock. He was the flat top Marine Corps, the voice, the guy. He barked at you. You were scared of him. He was our training. He was a captain. Everything. I was a detective. I made SWAT, and he still could find me in my dress clothes in the DB and make me do push-ups just to fuck with me. He was that type of guy, but he cared. He was a good dude. He was at the academy, and he was teaching at the new academy. And one of the recruits got a jam in her gun, and she turned and pointed her gun at his skull, right at his face. He screamed at her because she pointed a loaded gun. He got in trouble. The local academy came to him and said, you have to go apologize to her for yelling at her. She pointed a loaded gun at his face with a finger on the trigger. And in today's world, he was in trouble for yelling at her. So
Well,
that's
see,
the mentality of, that's where we're at in this world of law enforcement and people.
during my period, you got thrown off the range.
Probably
where
beat up if
if
you pointed
you
a gun at somebody.
if you were doing things in what they called an unsafe manner, they would literally throw you off the range, send you home, and tell you you need to come back another day when your head is on straight.
Yeah.
Same thing. Girl gets a jam in her gun. She doesn't know how to clear it. She turns right into the range master. Turns right there in front of him. Right there, throw her off the range.
Gone.
Just leave. And there's no retaliation with that. The
No.
guys were totally forthright in what they were saying to her or him, and there was no blowback from that where they had to apologize,
No,
because
it's a different
unsafe
world.
is unsafe. If you're unsafe, everybody's unsafe at the range. If you're
Yeah.
you're going around with the gun like this, you
Yeah.
know, it's
And
dangerous on everybody.
and that's what we're talking about, is people being over concerned with everything else, where you get to a range. And like the corrections, I think that's once a year. Our corrections are SU guns. They have them. Some people don't know why. Some people argue that. I'm not going to, but you get somebody like that once a year. You can't do anything proficiently once a year. Nothing. There's nothing on earth that if you do it once a year, you're going to be good at it, ever. Law enforcement side gets a lot more training, but you still see people struggle, cops struggle with fixing a malfunction. You know, obviously shooting, terrible, not able to hit the target, or very bad groupings. But the basic function of a firearm is tough, and you can't really say anything kind of, mean to anybody anymore. You have to, like, can you imagine like a baseball player that doesn't know how to swing a bat and he's standing in the World Series, or that the in the game, and that is like our bat, that is our football. You should know that thing. You should be able to manipulate that gun in your sleep. You should know where it is, how to get it in and out of your holster with your eyes closed, how to reload with your eyes closed, how to reload if your arm is blown off, how to reload with one hand. If you got to use your mouth, that should be your priority. Those are the things that are going to keep you alive. But if you look at like Atlanta, like you said, and they're dancing down the hallway, do you think anybody in that building is considering, my left arm just took a round and I shattered my elbow and I can't use it? How am I going to reload my gun? You think anybody thinks that in that building?
We actually practiced. The range master would actually set up. We'd take our magazines and they would set up like a dummy round that would jam your gun on purpose. So they set up the scenario where you had to clear your gun
Yeah.
because it was going to jam. You didn't know when, because they didn't tell you where they were putting that dummy round to make your gun malfunction. But it forced you to learn how to clear your weapon.
Yeah.
And we also learned how to, with one hand, if you had to take your gun and then jack it into your duty belt in
Mhm.
order to charge it, because your other hand is done.
Yeah.
So you got to charge it with your duty belt to get around into the chamber.
Yeah.
So things like that. That's what you practice.
That's very important. And it's gotten easier because of everybody's got a red dot, so it's easier. But here, my point here, the agency, and this is another topic my wife is huge on, the agency can only provide you with so much training. They can get you the basics, but like anything else, if you want to be excellent at it, you have to invest your own time. I will tell you, before every single shift, she doesn't miss it. I hear her magazine drop. I hear the gun rack. She unloads her gun. She dry fires that gun. I don't know how many times that I get sick of hearing it, but 20 times easily every single shift before she starts. Any test her taser, which is supposed to be done. I know nobody does it. She tests her taser every day, and every single day, every time she walks out the door, whether it's a detail, overtime detail, or a shift, clears her gun and does dry fire. And that's to me is the basics. And I did it too. She got me in the habit of doing it. Now, and that's somebody. Now, imagine she gets in a shooting. She's going to be ready because she's doing it over and over and over and over and over. And it's when a critical situation happens and your brain is going 3,000 places at once, that muscle memory is built, just like lifting, running, jujitsu, any other thing you practice over and over.
Well, she's the exception.
If you only touch it, but it shouldn't be. If you only touch your gun twice a year to go qual and when you're getting inspected, you put, what is going to happen when bullets are flying at you and people are getting hit with them, and you have, like you said, but you have a malfunction, or you're toast, man. You're toast. And I think a lot of cops are just living that luck,
But
like
the
I never.
agency with the taser, when we finally got the taser, they can download and tell, do the spark, what they call the spark
Mhm.
fire.
Yeah.
They could tell if you've been spark firing it every day because
Mhm.
it goes right into the computer. So guys would go to training. Hey, give me your taser, and the guy, say, hey, you just worked the last 60 days. You only spark fired it, 10 times.
Yeah.
So you could get written up for something like that.
But who's the bad guy? They look at the guy making the guy making you download it and telling you you're fucked up. Cops will make him the bad guy. Oh, this guy's all in my ass. I didn't test my taser. It's those basic things, man. And that to me compounds. If you're not willing to do the basic, easy stuff like practice dry fire, test your taser, make sure your equipment's in order, make sure what are you doing in a big situation? You're not prepared. And that is the progression of everything to me. That's the whole progression, is where people are like, well, just TikTok. Well, if their mind is busy on TikTok and they're not thinking about all the things we just talked about, Jerry, they're not ready. They're not ready to go get in a critical incident. They're not ready to save you and your family when somebody's, coming after you. They're not ready to save some innocent. They're not mentally prepared. And that's my argument.
Well, unfortunately, I don't know what the figures are recently, but they usually keep going up as far as cops getting killed,
Mhm.
on especially Florida. As a Florida cop, Florida was top in the nation for cops getting killed on duty.
Yeah.
So
Jerry, they
you
don't wear
know
their fucking vest, dude. They don't wear
yeah.
their vest in South Florida. Nobody wears it. Nobody. Like, they don't wear their bulletproof vest. I mean, I don't.
Well, I
My
found it when I started. We didn't have the load bearing vests. We had to wear the vest underneath our
Yeah,
shirts,
so did I.
and that was a nightmare. As far as sweating is concerned.
It was
And
miserable.
then when I went to Coral Springs, they had the load bearing vests, which made it a lot easier to wear a vest. Plus, it took a lot of pressure off your back
Yeah.
because you had some stuff that was now on your shoulders, that you could load up on the front of your vest, and you didn't have to wear it on your gun belt. So,
It's
you know,
comfortable.
it's more comfortable. Absolutely.
Most agencies have made it comfortable. Now there's some that don't, like Polk County is still in that old uniform class B. I think Brevard maybe does. I don't know, but they've made it better. But if you're not willing to do the basic stuff, like I said, to get yourself in order, how do I look at you and go, man, this guy's squared away? And the general public doesn't pay attention. Like that fucking stupid video I posted of the Broward County #2 black female dancing around in a gym, like just stupid,
Yeah.
stupid.
Nicole Anderson.
Yeah, and the people think that's cool, and I get, like, if cops they kind of look celebrity-ish, and down there it's a big agency. Oh, look at Broward County. People think that's okay. Oh, look, she's having fun. The problem is that when we know the top guy is a piece of garbage, there's no accountability throughout that whole thing, and that is like a normal day. They're not taking anything else serious either. So every now and then there's an exception and go, okay, this agency's a good agency and they made a silly video or they made a silly TikTok. Okay, once in a while, I'll give it that there are ones that probably make videos that we go, but they're decent places. That's the exception as well. The rule is just about every agency that does that dumb shit is full of shit, and they're not prepared. They're not putting out good product. Like, we could talk about Broward for days. Like, they got like they got like 20, 25 guys out right now on some type of admin leave. Since I did that interview with Greg, I've been contacted by so many people who I've been out for a year because I arrested a guy on a warrant in another city for rape, and they didn't like me leaving the county. And just one after another. I've heard story after story, and I'm just like, man, what are we doing? Like,
And
why?
it used to be one of the premier agencies in the country.
Yeah, that's
Back
one
in
of
the
the things I
day.
wanted to say to you. I was going to say, I know how you feel about the sheriff. I hate saying his name because he's a piece of shit. What is for a guy that worked for a great sheriff at one of the greatest agencies that was episode 1, day 1 cops, because it was a great place? What does it feel like to you, because you invested so much time there, to see what this guy has done down there?
It's embarrassing. I mean, I worked for that agency for 29 years, and then I worked for the Coral Springs Police Department for 2 years. And towards the end, I didn't work for Sheriff Tony. I left before he came in.
Lucky
But
for you.
maybe I would have been fired because maybe I couldn't keep my mouth shut. But I went to another agency when I became a school resource officer, and I have to say that the training and the professionalism at Coral Springs was better than Broward at that time. And I hate to say it, but it was,
I've
because
heard good things. Yeah, I've heard good things about them.
Coral Springs is they're pretty squared away department, and I enjoyed working for them, even though it was only for a few years.
That's
But
the ball-headed traffic guy is always on TV, right?
yeah,
On the internet.
they
Yeah,
they do a Thursday traffic thing, but
yeah.
their guys are professional as hell, very professional. But I worked for 7 different sheriffs when I worked at Broward. Some were
But for the
great.
most part, it stayed, like you say, some were great, but it stayed pretty consistent, right? It wasn't like as bad as
It
it is
was up and
now.
down a little. I mean, one sheriff got indicted, one guy died in office, another, and a lot of things changed with Broward because it just kept expanding. When I first got there, I think we had maybe 3 or 4 contract cities. Now, I think Broward has 17, 18 different districts. So, I mean, you're talking, a lot of the unincorporated areas are all, gobbled up by cities, but then the cities didn't want their police departments anymore, so they contracted with the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
So it's become a huge agency, and some of it is getting that big that quick. Sometimes you fall behind a little with your training and professionalism.
And then you have an absolute moron running the play. You saw Greg's episode and heard his story. What do you think?
Absolutely,
What do
yeah.
you think? What do you think of that? What do you think of that story and what happened to him?
I feel horrible for the guy because, you told everybody, yeah, they go and, 2, 3 years, you're out of work. They were suspended originally without pay. Then they got fired. Then they got their job back. Yeah, you get your job back with back pay after you go to arbitration. But for those 3 years, you're miserable. You're absolutely miserable. You just feel like a piece of garbage. That's when guys start thinking about eating their gun.
Yep.
What was the most amazing thing to me that you guys discussed? Here's an 11-person board. 4 of them are civilians. This is a board made up of all these different people in Broward County. You've got civilians from the business community. You've got probably some preachers on that board. Then you've got majors, sergeants, colonels, deputies. The whole board is completely diverse.
Mhm.
They found these guys exonerated by an 11-person board, and he overrode them.
Yeah, it's hard
And
to get
still
11
did
people.
it.
It's hard to get 11
That's
people to
his
agree.
board.
Yeah.
It's not some board. It wasn't a board made up with FDLE. This
Yeah.
was a board picked by the Broward Sheriff's Office, and he overrode them.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you?
And it's almost impossible to get 11 people to agree on anything. And you have, like you said, I could, and just like talking to you, I sat down and talked to, and within 5 minutes of talking to Greg, I could tell he was a fucking great cop. As soon as you start talking to him, you can hear it in his voice. You can hear it, but you can see it by the way he moves. He's a great cop. Then you watch the video and he does it textbook. Well, everything he does is textbook. And then, like you said, they go in front of a board. The sheriff picks the board. 11 people agree on something. You can't get 11 people to agree the sky is blue. 11 people, diverse, black, white, community members, watch 2 white cops fight a black kid and determine that the force used was reasonable, and they're cleared. And then Phony Greg Tony and all his command staff tell these guys they're good to go. And then Ben Crump comes down, gets the ear of the sheriff, and one gets fired and one sits at a desk for 3 years. You're right. That is the most demoralizing mental health crisis a human being can go through. And then you look at the level of cops they were, just street goon, hardworking street crimes dudes, and you rip their livelihood and probably what keeps them mentally healthy by going and helping the community, and you ripped out from underneath them as well, and then they sit there and just stare at the wall. Like
And
that's the
then
worst
even
thing.
even after, you know, being exonerated and waiting out 3 years, getting your job back, you know, going through arbitration and all this stuff, you're never the same.
No.
It doesn't, they can make you whole again, but that is in the back of your mind always,
Yep.
you
I
know,
did. I lived it. I lived it. I got demoted. I know. I know that changed my life, and that changed my outlook on the agency. It changed my outlook on the people that I thought were my friends. It changed everything, and it when you get involved, and you know, we were talking earlier about guys doing shady stuff with details and filling up their car with, you know, government gas card and scamming money and doing. When you do something like he did or what I did, where you're making an arrest and you're putting bad guys away, doing stuff that today not many cops are doing anymore, just out there, you know, wreaking havoc on criminals, and you get railroaded like those guys did, man, like everything falls apart. I'm like I said, I talking to him, man, I could just tell he's a great guy, great cop. And the way he held it together through all that and didn't knock Greg Tony out when he saw him in that restaurant that night, like he's a good dude, man, and he really handled it very
I'll
well.
give you a story that happened just a couple days ago. There's a Coral Springs captain that that who actually moved to the same area I live in, and his wife. They both moved up here the same time I did. So I made friends with them when I worked for Coral Springs. So we have dinner together once in a while. And there's a guy named Timmy Burton who was a school resource officer with me when I worked at Coral Springs. And Timmy's a big guy. He's like 6'2", weighs about 240, played professional baseball. He told me a story. We were talking the other night. He told me a story. He's working at a rough school, and there was a big fight that happened. He went to arrest the kid that actually punched the assistant principal. He went to break up a fight, and the assistant principal tried to help, and the kid punched the assistant principal right in front of him. He went to arrest the kid. He got surrounded by all these people, and he was ready to pound this kid into the ground, and he hesitated because he was thinking of the Greg Lucera situation.
Yeah.
He actually told me he thought of what happened to Greg Lucera, and he kind of hesitated to do what he should have done. And we talked about there's times to de-escalate, and there's times when you need to escalate quickly and take care of it, which will stop something from escalating.
Yep.
Sometimes a guy needs a good punch in the gut real quickly to de-escalate a situation.
Yeah.
So he actually hesitated a little, and he told me it was because of the Greg Lucera situation.
And you know, I had a guy on that got shot. The episode I had where the kid from Texas got shot when he walked up to the car, and he talked about the same thing. He didn't initially return fire even after getting shot because of some of the stuff that was going on at his agency and his fear of the unknown. So here you got a guy that's surrounded. You got a guy that got shot. You know, and you should never feel that way. And you know, Dom Izzo points out a lot of stuff about cops, and people. I think people mistake what he's trying to say. I think he's trying to say what we're saying. He just says it sometimes differently and a little more aggressively, but we should be performing at a really high level and you know, studying case law, knowing the Constitution, and using necessary force when it's the right time to use it. And unfortunately, you know, a guy like Greg Lucera does the right thing, but there's other videos, other people out there that haven't, and all that, you know, that stuff kind of runs together, and we get like the Jacksonville one. That one's debatable. I still think, you know, that kid getting punched in the face in Jacksonville is a little too much. He's a moron. He should have got out of the car. He's an idiot. He baited. He did all that stuff, but can't just punch him in the face. I guess sometimes that the bad ones run into the good ones, and then that's, I think, what Dom's argument is like, if we didn't have so many bad ones, the good ones would be so much easier. But in this case, like you said, Greg Lucera's is textbook. And, you know, when was it, Krikovic hitting him, you know, on the ground wrestling. They're trying to say slamming his head in the ground, and it's like, no, he's not. Like, but you get a guy like Ben Crump comes down and gets Greg Tony cranked up, and everybody's thinking money and politics. And I can't believe Ron DeSantis appointed this guy. It blows my mind. Of all the good things DeSantis did, I cannot believe he put that guy in office.
Well, you know the story how he wound up getting appointed. And the thing about it is, even the guys. Now, I didn't work at Coral Springs when Greg Tony was there, but some of the guys told me, you know, what kind of cop he was. He was, I mean, he was a sergeant for just a couple of years, and now he's the sheriff.
Was he out of law enforcement when he was he out of law enforcement?
Yeah, what happened is he left Coral Springs, and then he formed this company about, you know, I think he was in North Carolina. He was doing something to do with active shooter, and he was friends with Pollock, and his daughter had passed in the, or got shot in the Stoneman Douglas shooting. So Pollock had DeSantis's ear.
Okay.
And just based on the relationship that Pollock had with Greg Tony, and then the fact that Greg Tony was doing this active shooter, company that he started, he decided that he would be a good sheriff, and he put him together with DeSantis. The problem is you can't blame DeSantis because he didn't vet him. Okay, DeSantis doesn't depend on himself to go vet the guy. He depends on his staff to. Somebody that works for him did not vet him properly. In fact, he never even got vetted properly when he went to Coral Springs, because if Coral Springs, I remember one of the chiefs, they interviewed him, a guy named Chief Duncan, said, hey, when he was hired, if I knew his background, that he, was involved, shooting a guy when he was, 15 years old, and the fact that he, used LSD, and then he put that on one application in Tallahassee and not on the one for Coral Springs. There were so many different things that were contradictory to what should have taken place.
Change the spelling of his last name.
That's another way to get around stuff, because if you run Tony versus Toney, things might not come up. So he wasn't vetted properly, and that's the bottom line. But my opinion is this. DeSantis, knowing all this now, because FDLE investigated all this, he basically got a slap on the wrist. Once this was all exposed, all this background that he had, once again, if you get arrested for something, even if you're not convicted, you still have to divulge that. Yes, I've been arrested, but I wasn't convicted. So DeSantis needs to, when I say fall on the sword, hey, I made a mistake. We didn't vet this guy properly. He needs to be fired, and I need to put another sheriff in there. And you know what? If it's important that we put a diverse sheriff in there, then go get another guy that's, fits the diversity bill. But the guy's got to be removed, because anybody that has that kind of background and lied that many times on different applications, you shouldn't be the sheriff. You shouldn't even be a cop.
You wouldn't get a job as a patrol deputy with that background.
No, you wouldn't get a job as a security guard.
Yeah. So, change your name, shot somebody, drugs. I mean, and you're right. I got a message.
Suspended DL a few times. I think he wrote a bad check when he was at Florida State. I think something happened at the school there. He wrote a bad check there. I mean, all these different things disqualify you to be a cop, period.
Yeah. And he's a sheriff.
Yep.
Yeah, I got a message today about it. Somebody said, well, what is it Ron DeSantis going to supposed to do? I said, you fucking get rid of him, dude. He can do whatever he wants. He's the governor.
I mean, didn't he get rid of some real super liberal DA?
Yep.
Fired him.
That. Yeah, he got rid of. Well, then he got rid of the guy. He got rid of the previous Broward sheriff for the Stoneman Douglas thing.
Yes, fired Scott Israel. He fired him.
Yeah, Carmine or Lopez got arrested, and he immediately removed him. The guy in Osceola, he can do whatever he wants. I kind of figured maybe because I think that's the last blue county in Florida, like consistently.
It's very blue.
I thought maybe he says, I'm running for president. I get this guy down there. He's going to support me, get me, lobby for me and one of those type of deals. But yeah, as aggressive as Ron DeSantis is as a governor, and he tackles big issues. The Hulk Hogan controversy. He says August 1st is Hulk Hogan Day. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
But then
Alcatraz,
the
Alcatraz thing.
Yeah,
He's done a lot of aggressive things to help the country, help the state of Florida.
I just wonder if the run for president, which is probably going to happen after Trump's done, I wonder if that is influencing him.
I don't know. I mean, if he went on the news and said, "Hey, this is what this guy's background is. I didn't vet him properly. My staff didn't know that he changed his name, and all these different things happened. I've got to get rid of him, and this is who I'm replacing him with. Somebody very highly qualified, and I feel confident."
Yeah.
Just explain your situation.
Or go talk to Greg Lucero.
I call it falling on the sword. I made a mistake, and this is how I'm correcting it.
Or go talk to Greg and pull all these other guys that I've talked to that are year on admin leave for the. I mean, you can't have this guy. This guy, and he posted some stupid video today. Somebody sent me. He's at a taco truck or something. He is so self-centered and so about himself. Everything is him. Everything just screams terrible. Everything about him. And then if you start looking, I'm telling you, he's losing people at record numbers to other agencies down there. He's hiding that. I'm told from multiple sources, he has contacted other chiefs down there and said, please don't hire anybody from my county. Please slow down on hiring people in my county. I'm losing too many people. I haven't had one person, and I have a lot of messages from down there. Not one person has said, you're wrong. Greg Tony's a great guy. And there are sometimes I get people sticking up for Carmine Marcianos, people sticking up for Grady.
Well, it depends what rank they are. If they've been promoted three times under his administration, they're going to stick up.
Nobody to me has contacted me from the rank and file of law enforcement guys that I have talked to and said one positive thing about Greg Tony. Everything I've gotten is the Greg Lucero story is accurate. That's how we're all treated. It's a shit show. And I get not being able to do that like at every agency. Governor can't go around and just go, nobody likes that sheriff. But you put this guy in office. You now know, like everything you just listed, Jerry. If you were doing that, and that was your lawn guy, and you found all that, you'd be like, I'm getting a new lawn guy. This guy's out of here. Like, it's his responsibility, in my opinion, to unfuck that problem.
Well, here's an example. So he gets in office. Even the shower curtains in the locker room have his name on it. Okay, so all this stuff has his name on it. Then fast forward, now he gets a doctorate. So now all the stuff he put his name on, they take it all down and they redo all the stuff. What is that? You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff that you put your name on. You're redoing it all because now you got to do Dr. Sheriff Gregory Tony because he got his doctorate. So now he redid all the things with his name on it to throw in the doctor.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that guy got in power, and
the taxpayers are paying for that for that.
Yeah, and anybody with a brain can see how terrible he is. So, well, Jerry, it's been real. I appreciate you coming back on. I think we covered what I wanted to cover. When this airs, I will, like I said, I'll be somewhere in Costa Maya, maybe on Wednesday. So,
and we will meet.
We will meet August 16th in Miami in person. Please come down. It's a great thing. We got some great people coming, some special guests, and we're real excited about that. So, Jerry, I appreciate your friendship and your guidance and your wisdom, and I appreciate coming back on.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'm the only white face in this area. You don't belong here. Stop, I'll shoot you in the back!